Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Welcome you all again in the virtual learning system of Pakistan International School Taif, Saudi Arabia. Dear students, as you know that this is Pakistan International School Taif virtual class for class second year students, subject computer science, and today is our 54th lecture. Teacher name, as you know that, Imran Ahmed. Dear students, as you know that in the previous lecture we were discussing about the chapter number 8 related with the classes and the objects. In the previous lecture we have defined what is class and what are the objects. So simple definition of class and objects. Just for the revision, the classes are the most important feature of C++ that leads to object oriented programming. Class is a user-defined data type. User-defined data type means built-in data type or those data type which are already defined in the compiler. Let's say integer, float, characters. So these are the built-in. But user-defined data types are the classes. Class names are called the user-defined data types. The variable inside the class definitions are called data members and the functions are called member function. So for this purpose, we have explained the general format of class and we did the simple program. I show you what is class and what are the objects. The definition of object is an instance of class. It means that instance means part of a class which holds the data variable declared in the class. So any variables or member functions which we have defined in the class, we can access those variables or data members or member functions with the help of object. So object is a great importance in the object oriented programming because a class cannot be used without creating its object. So if in the previous example, in the previous definition of class, so class name and the object name. So class name over there, C rectangle was the class name and its objects, three objects we have defined. First object R1, second R2, third R3. So class name is C rectangle. So C rectangle is data type, user defined data type or class name. So R1 is the object of C rectangle. R2 is also, so with the help of R1, R2 and R3 we can access the data members and the member functions of a class. Already we have explained this example. So next topic, how objects are created to access members of a class. Same question, but they just change the name. So it is related with the class and also related with the object. As you know that objects are instance of a class which holds the data variable declared in the class. In other words, a variable of type class is called object. A variable of type class is called object. Object is of great importance in object-oriented programming. OOP. OOP stands for object-oriented programming because a class cannot be used without creating its object. So simple previous definition, general syntax, class name and object name. So example, C rectangle is a class name, R1, R2 and R3 are the object creation or object name. Watch here, R1, R2, R3 now can access the members of class rectangle. Which class? C rectangle. Members means member variable, member functions, um, member functions are data members of a C rectangle. So with the help of R1, R2 and R3 we can access the class. Next question. In the previous example, I show you the some access specifier we have used. Let's say I gave you the example private and public. So we will explain one by one. Explain private and public specifier with example. So what are the access specifier? After that, what is private access specifier, and what are the public specifier. First of all, the definition of access specifier. Access specifier in the C++ define how the members of the class can be accessed. How the members of the class can be accessed. Members means data members. Simply in the simple programming in the previous before the chapter 8 when we were using variable. So in the class, variables are known as data members. Access specifier determine which member of a class is accessible in which part of the class or program. So with the help of access specifier, we can assume that that member can be accessed in the class or the program. Which part of the program? Either they are private or either they are public. Either they are protected. So we will explain one by one. Three access specifier are used in C++ program. How many? Three. Number A, private access specifier. Number B, public access specifier. And number C is protected access specifier. In the question, they give us the public and the private. So we will explain private access specifier. In private access specifier, the members are accessible only within the class. It means that outside the class, I cannot access data members and the member functions and its friend function. So friend function is also the capability of a C++. We will explain that private members are not accessible outside the class. So if the members are private, members means if the data members or the variables are private, so we cannot access those members outside the class. Watch here in the example, hash include iostream.h, hash include conio.h, class test private. So this is the name of the class. We are going to try the test the private access specifier. So this one is the user defined name. You can give instead of test private, you can write xyz abc whatever you want. But because this topic is related to check the private access specifier. So I use the name test private. So this is a user defined name, not a reservoir. So class test private, opening of class. Now watch here, private member, only X is the private member. In this example, X is a private member. So I cannot access this X outside the class. Where outside the class? So the scope of the class is over from here to up to here. So only I can access X in this region, X in the class region. So I cannot X this variable or data member outside the class. For example, over here, I cannot use in the main function. Why I cannot use? Because X is a private member. So in this example, we are going to show that private integer X. I hope you understand this one. Now public, this public in the and the member function void test. Test is a member function, X is a data member. Keep in mind, X is private. We cannot access the X outside the class, but we can access the test outside the class. How can we access? I will show. I will tell you when we uh, create the objects. Void test. Opening of the test x is equal to 10. Watch here, we assign this x variable or data member a value 10. So this is inside the class. This is inside the class, not outside the class. So I don't know why this message has appeared. Okay, let me minimize. You cannot minimize Zoom recording. Okay, let me check whether this one is recording or not. So X is a private member and access inside the class, and L, it means a new line value of X, and we are going to display the value of X, which is 10. So this message will be appeared on the screen. X is a private member and access inside the class. Now, how can I call this function? How can I call this function? Watch here, this is a closing of class. So void main, opening of the main function. So test private is the name of the class, and we are going to create the object p1. So object p1 is the name of the object is p1, and it is the instance of the test private class. So with the help of p1, I can access outside this private public function outside from the class. Watch here, p1 dot test. So p1 dot test, when the control will comes to here, this will be calling its function. So control will be transferred to over here, and this message and this process will be executed. So this is the private member. Watch here, I give you the comments. p1.x, I cannot use p1.x as 10. Why I cannot use? Invalid, because X is a private and cannot access outside the class. That's why we cannot access. Get ch and termination of the main function over here. Now this one was the private access specifier. Next, public access specifier. So question was, what are the access specifier? Explain private and public specifier with the example. Access specifiers in C++ define how the members of the class can be accessed. Access specifier determines which member of a class is accessible in which part of the class or program. Three access specifier are used in C++ program. Number one, private access specifier, public access specifier, and the third one is protected. In the public private access specifier, the members are accessible only within the class. Keep in mind this word, within the class. We cannot access or we cannot use the private members outside the class. So this is the major point over here, and its friend function, where we can use, and its friend function. Private members are not accessible outside the class. For this purpose, we are creating an example, hash include iostream.h, hash include kanyo.h. Class is the reserved word, and test private is the name of the class. Opening of the class private. So we are going to create a private member, data member, which is x. So I cannot use the x outside the class. So public and the member function test is the public member function, so I can use the test outside the class, but x I cannot use outside the class. X is equal to 10, so value of x is 10. See out, x is private member and accessible inside the class, NL, and next message, see out value of x is equal to x. So it will show me the result. X is private member and access inside the class. Second message after the new line, value of x is equal to 10. It will be shown. Now watch it. X is only defined inside the class, not outside the class. So in the main function, I'm going to create an object which is having the name p1 is the name of the object of class test private. So p1 dot test. So this will call its function with the help of object. We can call this function test, and this one is a test over calling, and this message will be appeared on the screen, and this process will be executed. Now watch here in the comment section. This is the comment, single line comments p1 dot x is equal to 10. So this will not invalid. Why invalid? Because x is private member and this part is outside the class, so we cannot use x outside the class. Why it is invalid? Invalid because x is private and cannot be accessed from outside the class. Get ch and the termination of the main function. So this one example belongs to the private access specifier. Next one is public access specifier. Public members are accessible from anywhere where the object is visible. So where you can use the object where the object is visible, so you can access any public member inside the class as well as outside the class. That is within the class, in the derived classes and in the main function. Derived classes, the word inheritance is the topic of C++, so we will discuss the derived classes over there. So till now, you try to understand this one. In the main function, in the derived classes, and in the class definition, also we can use the public access specifier. Example, I use team.h, conio.h public test. Early in the previous example, I used the name of class was private test. Over here, I'm using the public test. Now watch here, same example, but the word is different. Over there, I use the public. Over there, I use the word private. Now over here, I'm using the public access specifier and the same variable having the same value integer x is equal to 10. Now this x can be accessible inside the class as well as outside the class. I will show you how can access. So this is public data members and this is public member function. Where is the public member function? This one is the public member function. So this one is the definition of the public member function. See out x is equal, this one is the message and it will show me the value. Integer main. So inside the main function, the name of the class was public test and pt point or you can say that public object public test object one. So only one object will be created. pt1 is an object to class public test. Watch here, pt1 dot x. So now over here we are going to access which data member, public data member outside the class x. So same value, but in the private I cannot use this statement. pt1 dot show public, so it will show the public and it will create the object and it will display the result. Which result? X is equal to 10. So this 10 will be accessible and will show you the result. Next is, what is data hiding? What is data hiding? Explain. Data hiding or encapsulation. You can call this one data hiding or encapsulation. In C++, we have the facility of hiding data using different access levels. How many access levels? 3 different levels. Number 1, private. Number 2, protected. Number 3, public. In classes, so in the previous question, we were discussing about the private and public. Over here we are going to explain the data hiding and or encapsulation. It is also called the encapsulation. You can call it data hiding or you can call it encapsulation. So the word is, both the words having the same meaning. Private data members and member function can only be accessed by the member of the same class defining them and cannot be accessed from the outside the class. Simple definition, as I told you, the private members are only accessible inside the class, or either it is data member or either it is member function. But if you define the member function or the data member using private access specifier, so you can only use those member functions or data members inside the class, not outside the class. Similarly, now watch here, what is the protected? Protected members or data members and member function of a class can be accessed only by the class defining them and it is derived classes. So in the inheritance, I can use by the using friend function. So in the inheritance, we can use protected data members outside the class, but with the help of friend function, we can access them. Next question is, explain constructor and destructor class member function with example. constructor and destructor. So this topic take a lot of consideration. Inshallah, we will explain this topic, and I hope we will. Let me check. We next week, inshallah, we will complete our course. Till take care of yourself. Pray for me. Pray for all Muslim. Allah Hafiz.